I'm so delighted to facilitate and moderate such a beautiful panel. First of all, I want to approach our government official, who is very dynamic and who has been supportive from private sector as well as from the government, and ask the rhetorical question, why? Why Georgia is so special from your perspective?
First of all, thank you very much, and I'm very, very excited, and I know not that guy, no, who Mariam was representing. Yet this guy did not come in, so maybe on the second part, so I'll just be replacing. And why? Just to economy time, but I cannot go off without thank yous. Just thank you everybody who is here. Thank you UK. Thank you all the sponsors. Thank you all this excitement team who organized this one, and we'll be delightfully seeing these 2 days and more. And thank you very, very much. And thanks, of course, the forces of universe, because for this energy, what we are coming up. And why Georgia? And that's coming up, the why, because it started maybe, I know, some scholars say it was like many million years ago, or some say it was like only like a few thousand years ago. Some say it was Chuck Norris who made it accidentally, this boom. But we came up to be humans, yeah? And now we're in the shape of the Homo sapiens. And as you know, like we have like in the museum, the heads from the Zezwe and Mzia, like one of the first guys coming out from to be now our ancestors. So the Georgia is a very, very little country, but very, very dynamic, diverse, very beautiful. And of course, I won't bother you with geography, etc., but become a more governmental, official, and bureaucratic, and say some figures. Like in doing business, we're number 7. Now we're overridden by United States. Okay. You heard about this country, yes? Okay. But in this one, why? Because, and it's a very, very interesting, and it is like ranking by World Bank, but the why number 7, and what is good in it, because you can start the company, you can run the company, the interests of minority are very, very much more secured, etc. So they are all a good set of rules and set of legislation, which is good to start your business and to be secured and to be very, very efficient, not to lose your time. You need only a few hours, like less than an hour, to start and register your company and go on. Why Georgia? Because we have the best taxation system here, which is like officially third best, less burden in the world, but technically it's number 1. We have only 6 taxes, so we can count it from our hands, like on the fingers, at like 3 out of this corporate one, and you can, old Romans used to say, yeah, we cannot escape death and taxes. In Georgia, you can legally escape taxes, because if you are reinvesting your profits, and here's Wacho, is our chief macroeconomist, and I didn't say wrong word, so he's smiling. Thanks, Wacho, for support. So if you are reinvesting your profits in your company in Georgia, you are paying 0. So you're enlarging the net value, net worth of your company, and especially if you are, or you're looking to become a public, this is very, very important and good. And why Georgia and why public? Because, as you said, we have a very, very strong financial sector as well as some other very good things. And 2 largest banks, from which one is the sponsor of this event and been already Colin said thanks, and I'm also gratituding them. They are on London Stock Exchange, and that's why that makes Britain great, and they are on the supreme market on FTSE 250. Just for those who are not affiliated with it, this is a very, very complicated and very high regulated, but very large market, a community of large companies with very, very, very strong requirements. So it means that the financial sector from Georgia, they are London Stock Exchange, there are a lot of many investors in this field, and that makes sense for many people, as well as for young startups to think about your ideas, to monetizing your ideas, to get the support. Why Georgia? Because we try to be a hub, and it is not we are not deadlocked in the deadlocks, etc. We're open. We had a very, very huge history of connecting people and connectivity and connections. And we are very, very open-minded, and we have this culture. We had this, we've been under the part of this Silk Road, and we are now still the part of these new connections. We have highest literacy in the region and the internet. We are one of the leaders in Eastern Partnership countries with internet literacy and accessibility. Approximately 80% of our community has access to the internet. Now we're very, very much working to improve the quality and expand the speed, etc. And of course, we are pushing up together. And you know that the main idea, and just not to bother you too much, on the coat of arms of our coat of arms, there is two words in Georgian, Zala Ertobashia, which means strength in unity. So we are really, really, really team players. As I said, we are a small nation in the middle, squeezed in the between under the various cultures, but still survived. And once Winston Churchill said, we shall never surrender. And we have demonstrated it from these many, many million years. And so far we're going. We'd like to share. We are living in the era of the sharing economy, and all our nature is giving, it's sharing. So as Shota Rustaveli said, what you share, it is yours. Like, it's a very, very bad translation of mine, so excuse me. So it's another motivation, those who don't speak Georgian yet, to look at this name, Shota Rustaveli, and his very nice quotes. And of course we have a good weather. And you can get some very nice ice cream here to be happy, and some nice wine, as they say. But don't trust to anything what I told you. And remember, yesterday we've been talking. Just check and double check it, whether it is true or not, on the wine and the culture and some good weather stuff. No, I think it's
Thank you
enough.
very much. Yes, thank you so much. Sharing is caring, definitely, and what you share. And how many, this is the platform of raising the social capital. And this is the money will be followed, definitely, but Georgia has been good in teaming up not only internally in the country, but also mobilizing the people around our country and raising the friends. First of all, it was useful to raise the friends who will be then, of course, followed by the money and be the investors as well. So money comes first, so the friendship comes first, and then the fund is following. We see also that we have great partnerships with not only in our neighboring countries, but also overseas and also in around the world. We've been closely exploring the opportunities with UK, especially after Brexit, when we were discussing about strengthening the cooperation with UK. And when you have the friends like the ambassadors, when you have friends, those who also are living in UK but still continue working on supporting the country, this is making all this happen. So Justin has been, Your Excellence, you have been very supportive in developing these relations. Also, knowing the language which is spoken by 3 million people is the respect you have to our country. Justin speaks a brilliant Georgian with the proverbs and everything. So will you continue in Georgian or?
Didi madloba, Mariam. Quellas mogasalmabit. Priad mocharoli var. Tquentan kopnit. Pir velad. Rustavelis teatris scenaze. Didi madloba, quellas. Thank you, Mariam. It's a real pleasure to be here in this amazing theatre. On the stage for the first time on a Saturday morning. And I'm delighted that we are able to support Startup Grind Tbilisi, passing on the flame from San Francisco to London and now to Tbilisi. I'm really pleased that we're able to support this as part of our UK season in Georgia. My job is to say why I think Georgia is the right place at the right time. And I'll be quite brief because I think a lot of great points have been made by Nick and by others already. But I think for me, there's three reasons. They are tolerance, confidence, and talent. Tolerance, confidence, and talent. On tolerance, I mean, Nick referred to it as well. You know, this is a meeting place. It has been a meeting place for centuries. And what makes it a meeting place is that spirit of tolerance, where different cultures, different faiths, different beliefs can coexist and can meet together in this place. And while that was important in history, I think it's never been more important now and for the future. Confidence. Nick talks about a small country. Yes, small country, but great nation. The spirit of confidence that you feel in Georgia on a daily basis is very powerful. You feel it in this theatre today. And the example that comes to my mind, being here in the Rustaveli Theatre, comes from this stage, from the dark days, I would say, of the 1960s and the 1970s, the Soviet period, when Georgia was cut off from the rest of the world, artificially cut off for 70 years. I think it was about 1979, this theatre decided to take Shakespeare to London. Now, it takes quite a lot of confidence for a small nation, you know, behind a Soviet wall, to think, right, we're going to take Shakespeare to the Brits. And they did. The Rustaveli Theatre took Richard III to the Edinburgh Festival in Scotland and to London, and it blew away the whole of the UK. It was a smash hit. And that kind of confidence, and you know, we're talking about the 60s and 70s, you know, there were ways to express that confidence through culture and through creativity. But I think that spirit of confidence is still here in Georgia and is very obvious in this kind of sector as well. And then talent. My final point is talent. I've been here 3 years, just more than 3 years now, and every time I'm still surprised by how impressive Georgia's younger generations are. And I think those who are visiting Georgia will see that. The talent that there is among Georgia's younger generation is really remarkable. And that's in Tbilisi, but I would say it's around the country as well. When I go to Tkuyavi, when I go to Tsalka, when I go to Ajara, I meet these same impressive younger generation. If I can, Mariam, three final points. Talent, confidence, and tolerance, they all need to be looked after. Mm-hmm. They all need to be nurtured and protected. Tolerance, obviously, perhaps never more than ever, those values of tolerance are under threat in our society, and I think it's really important to do all we can to protect them. Confidence. I think, speaking from a government point of view, there are important steps that governments can take to build the confidence of the startup sector around institutionalizing finance for the startup sector and other legislative changes that are very important. And then talent, education. I said a few days ago, in Georgia, if you have some time to visit places like Ikalto and Galati, which were ancient centers of learning in the 12th century here in Georgia, and were absolutely crucial to Georgia's survival. I think education is crucial to Georgia's survival and success today.
Absolutely.
And I hope that you can find the spirit of Ikalto and the spirit of Galati, again, in nurturing Georgia's education sector for the future.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank you for reminding us about that seen how we were able to move some stuff outside of the Soviet carton. And that was also the case when more than 40 years ago, Georgia was able to take our folk song, Chakrulo, to space. So the Voyager record is having the Georgian folk song, which is heard by the aliens. So Carl Sagan was the one who said that even though it was pretty hard to send something as a Georgian brand during the Soviet time, he said that this song has to be heard by the aliens. So that's also the spirit how Georgia is kind of trying to strive and go out of the boxes and like make the changes outside as well. So to turn to Vincent, can you tell us also like why from EU perspective you see that Georgia is special and becoming even more special? Yeah, it's on. It's on.
So Moges Hamlebit, it's really also for me a big pleasure and honor to sit here with all of you. I mean, first of all, first thing that comes to my mind when I think about, how we approach Georgia from the European Union, well, it's a country that has a vision for itself. And I think you had alluded to it. It's a country that decided at some point to take its future in its hands. And I think that's very important. So whatever you see from the government, there is a direction, and it's shared by the people. And of course, once you have a country that knows where it wants to go, and when you want to develop your business or just your life in there, it makes a lot of things immediately much more natural and straightforward. And well, that's also where the European Union comes in. I mean, Georgia chose to become an EU-associated country. It's a lot about the economy, the visas you mentioned, but also it's about values and education, culture. So now, of course, that now starts to directly translate for business as well. So this means also that we have a country that has, for itself, not for the EU, by its own choice, developed all those reforms, and business see the value of it. I mean, how quickly you can establish a business. If you're a citizen, you can get your passport through a drive-in. A lot of people in Europe come here to look at that, because that's quite amazing. But also, of course, coming to the European Union, it means also that the country has developed sound financials. You spoke about macroeconomic figures. So it creates an environment for business that has an element of being predictable and dependable. EU association, of course, it means access to the most prosperous market in the world, 500 million people, not very far from here, and the government is working on making it even closer, whether it's digitalized or whether it's through a physical infrastructure. But it's not just about access to a market. We have this association agreement and this DCFTA. Maybe I should ask how many people have heard about the DCFTA here. Well, you see, it's quite a taxing acronym, but a lot of people know about that. And why is it important? So there's FTA, meaning free access, but also there's all the roadmap of reforms and standards and rules. And why is it so important? Because as a business also you need to know and to anticipate on which rules you will need to operate. You need predictability so that your ideas, you can develop them, but then how to execute them, the environment becomes clear and predictable. And the EU set of rules is known as being an important benchmark. So even beyond the EU, if you comply to those standards, actually it helps you access other markets, in the Middle East or in Asia. Having the EU standard label, it helps your product and your sales. And then a final word, I think Justin alluded to it. I think Georgia has creativity. So we're here in one of the hallmarks, the cradles of Georgian cultures. But it's not just about keeping the heritage, which is very important indeed. I mean, from the wine to the buildings and all the literature and painting, but it's still going on. And we see that in art, but we also see that in business. So we're so proud that ourselves we've been associated with the furniture cluster, which is bringing designers together with the carpenters, and we're very proud also that we're supporting other clusters like the film clusters. And I apologize because I will forget a lot of important business and business cluster initiatives. But just to highlight that, you have this environment which is conducive to creation, and that's also very important if you want to start a business here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, thank you very much. That has been very useful to have accessibility to international markets. This is how we kind of scale up our businesses and also share the values and bring the values to our country. So thank you very much for your points. Now to Money Guy, to Andrew. I'm sure that after this panel, people will be coming to you begging for the investments. Okay. So tell us your perspective, how you have explored Georgia and what brought you to Georgia.
Thank you, Mariam, and also thank you so much to Gita and to Startup Grind and Colin. I'm super honored to be on this stage. I believe that I'm on the stage because of the failures that I've had, so I'm also thankful for the talk earlier. I'm probably here more for successes, but the failures got me here, and I think that's super important. I first came to Georgia in 2007 as an invitation. I was working for a company, and they had a deal with Car2 Bank, and they chose me to come. And the country then, as many of you know, was very different. I was actually here during the invasion, and I moved here in 2016 because of many reasons, but I think one of the most important was how incredibly hospitable Georgia is. And when I say that, I don't just mean that when you walk into a restaurant or you see friends in the village, immediately it becomes a huge supra and you've got food and wine and cha-cha, up to your ears. But we, even today, saw some of this hospitality in elected people of government standing on this stage. People, this is one of the greatest democracies in this region, and you have the leader of parliament, you've got ministers, you've got the mayor of Tbilisi sitting here, basically opening the doors of the country, all right, to us, to the entrepreneurs, to the startup. They've lowered taxes, they've created, stable scenarios. I feel very safe here, I feel very transparent here. World Bank has identified this country as one of the greatest countries to come and do business in. The transparency index is super high. So when people say to me, why Georgia? I say, are you kidding? This place is great. The food is fantastic. The culture is amazing. The language is, dates back, a millennia ago. You've got culture both enshrined in this theater, but also in the hearts of Georgians. You have sayings such as 9 mountains over, things that are very difficult for an American who comes from a country that's younger than your botanical gardens for me to be able to comment on, but I feel very much at home here. I'm extremely happy here. I made pacts with many, many Georgians. I have tons of Georgian partners. Many of them are here today. I've been very adamant about bringing investment money to Georgia, not to exploit, but to explore and to leverage. And I'm a very, very happy person here. I've been living here almost 4 years. I intend to stay here much longer. I've been very, very blessed in that I have access to fantastic Georgian people. I've got access to capital outside of Georgia. My goal for the first 5 years of living here was to bring only capital from outside of Georgia in, not to even begin to try to sell something to Georgia. That's actually changing as well, because as I'm spending more time here, I'm seeing goods and services that are possibly in a niche space that need to be done here, such as agriculture, food and wine, charcuterie business, which a friend and I started. So I say, why Georgia? My answer is very, very simple. Why not? So yeah, everything that you want is here, and so thank you.
Thank you very much. Feeling home is definitely very important when doing business or when you're exploring the country. So because we're short in time, I would like to request you to kind of make a sum up, like a 1 minute summing up of what you would like to see or what you would be doing and are doing in terms of supporting this ecosystem. And let's have a quick round starting from you, like 1 minute, what you are doing for our ecosystem development.
Sure. Thank you, Mariam. One thing we're doing is supporting Startup Grind Tbilisi.
That's great. So
but
big applause. Great applause for this.
But I'm really pleased that we started this about a year ago by supporting Georgian startups to go to Startup Grind London.
Absolutely.
And make those kind of connections. And that takes me to my second thing, which is we are doing all we can to support those kind of connections between the startup ecosystem in the UK and here in Georgia, with a particular focus on cybersecurity, fintech, and angel investment as well. And then the third thing we're doing is the wider business environment through our Good Governance Fund, where we partner with the Georgian government and Georgian institutions to try and strengthen the business environment here in Georgia. Those are our three things.
Yeah, that's very useful. And currently we were exploring of how we can twin these countries, not only like regulatory framework and business-friendly environment has to be in place, and that's crucial, and we have to learn a lot from the UK example. So thank you very much for your great support.
Yeah, in 2 words. First of all, we are also supporting the government, so we are very proud of our partnership with the World Bank and GITA. And of course, we are supporting the other institutions. Business development is our largest domain of assistance. We work also through banks to facilitate credit lines for business, so because one thing is to start a business, but then you need help to scale it up. Secondly, we work with the institution, with the government, with the parliament, with the National Bank on the legal environment around business, because you need to. I mentioned all the work that was done, but we need to work more on the legal system that was mentioned. Company Act, Insolvency Act, all the stuff about enforcement of legal claims. And finally, we work on helping business work together. I think that was mentioned very importantly. You're not on your own. You have to team up. So business to business work, business clusters, also business to science. So linking the universities to the business sector. These are our directions. I could speak for an hour of everything we are doing to help this country, but I think this is the most, the direct thing that comes to my mind.
Thank you so much. That has been a very crucial platform of having not only the budgetary support, but the technical assistance as well. From the regulatory perspective, you mentioned about Innofin, which is run through the EIB with the commercial banks to support the innovative companies, and that's very useful as well. And also the technology transfer, which was developed with EU and World Bank support to commercialize those inventions who are in the scientific institutions to bring into the industry, which is very crucial, and thank you very much for this support. So, Nick?
A very, very big challenge, but I will use the quote from Abraham Lincoln's very, very famous words. It is easy to predict the future if you are the one who is creating it. So, we are creating the future now together with this gentleman, with you all, and we just try to be very productive and team working as a government. And this event, this is not the words which I just can speak with, just this is the action what we all can touch and feel now. This is the Startup Grind, which is another one very good demonstration of this joint teamwork together with the private sector, public sector, international society, community, and of course realization. We are making small steps, but very, very precise steps to make big journeys together. And in this teamwork, we created, together with the friends, We gained the access to 2.3 billion market from this little location, but very beautiful one. This is becoming the hub as it used to be in ancient periods with the Silk Road, etc. And now we are trying to become and working very hard to become technological hub with gain access the access to the capital, to invite those people and spread this one. As I said, we are creating the very, very liberal economy here and very, very good the joining point where the cultures can join and create new value. We have created this value. We are still pushing up to even increase this access to this more new markets. The chairman this morning mentioned about the negotiations that are going on with the United States, and also the negotiations going with other countries like Israel and India to add up more free space for free trade and free relationships. We are pushing up more on the innovation, and JITA is one of the good and strong instruments here to build the ecosystem of entrepreneurship and innovative thinking. Because innovation is very, very the usual thing. We just innovate every time. Well, once first time we made our, the state made our first steps. It was the most innovative product and what we ever created. And Wright brothers, who made this first flight on the aircrafts, they made it like huge breakthrough, but in analog format, yes, and then in engineering. We might say it's a very nice another words of this Nikoloz. How hip. It's just like it is simple but not easy. So the simplicity is more very, very, very hard thing to do, and we are having very, very, very open to be on this side. So I just want to be too much more on this side. Once again, very nice quote from the British guy: "Don't panic, come to Georgia and do business together."
Thank you very much. The government has been definitely the enabler of the SICOM, even establishing the institutional framework as a JITA, where we are able to, under the umbrella of the Ministry of Economy, able to, on the one hand, develop the regulatory framework for innovation, support like what entrepreneurs want. They want, first of all, access to social capital, and we're developing and contributing in developing the skills and capacity. We have 3,000 IT specialist program currently running on, which will be increasing also the human capital in the country, and we are raising the entrepreneurial skills. Another one is access to infrastructure where they can find those people, and this is the tech parks, not only in Tbilisi, but also around the country where you can get access to physical infrastructure, the makerspace, and also to the social capital. And third, which is very important, is access to finance, and government has firmly committed to support the early stage. So government, JITA, is having the starting from micro grants, ending up with seed stage, pre-seed, and even like phase A stage support, which is demonstrated with the grants. Like the biggest grant is $250,000 US, which is a dollar-to-dollar investment, which is again facilitating and encouraging angel and VC investments. And also the $40,000 US grant, which was announced yesterday, which is a really amazing opportunity to translate your idea and commercialize it and bring into the industry. So thanks to the government for making this enabling environment in Georgia. And now from the investment perspective, how?
Thanks, Mariam. So what am I doing? First of all, I'm doing things like this. When people from JITA call and when Startup Grind calls, I answer every time. JITA has done so much for me, and again, through the hospitality. So I see myself as more and more of a bridge in this country, so I'm taking that role quite seriously. When the government calls or when people call from Startup Grind, I always answer. I do more social networking. I'm a very, very proud member of the American Chamber of Commerce, which is also here, and so I work very closely with them. And I've, in a very, very practical matter, I've created a new company just very recently with some very strong Georgian partners to be a hub, a business hub, a portal for new business. So, because many people say, oh, this is great, this is awesome, there's all these things happening, how do I start? Well, you can start by working with someone like me or groups that are like mine that can very quickly and very easily walk you through the process of setting up a company. I'm working, even last night I had a great meeting with the Bank of Georgia to automate further their new business account and personal account procedure. Had also one of my partners had a meeting with the Public House here, which is a fantastic organization, to even further automate, if it's even possible, their process of opening a new company and streamlining documents. So many times the first thing that you need to do is open a company. Fortunately, Georgia has made that very easy, but even that can be daunting if you don't speak the language. So on a very practical level, we started just with that, and then we can usher you all the way through from outsourcing all the way to select contacts within ministries and business, all for the purpose, transparently, to increase and grow business in Georgia. Because this is a great place to do it. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the great panel we've had. We've taken our good friend Bill's time, our next, who is a great supporter of our country. And let me thank and give a great applause to our panelists who have made a great job. And one selfie before we go.